You know, one thing I noticed, Brian, was that I did participate in one of your trials with the sensors and the phone, for lack of the medical device. And you know what I found was that it it helped me relax in a way. It it kept me from overthinking my walking. I'm a stroke survivor myself, as you know, and one of the things that a stroke does to you is you end up thinking about everything you did because the brain doesn't have a map for what it does. It does it automatically. So you wake up in a hospital bed and you say, how did I used to move this arm or this leg? And you have no memory of that. And so you try and look at your other side and everything and figure it out, which means that, you know, for 13 and a half years, I've thought about every single step I've taken. It's a, you know, you just can't get rid of it. And I found that the whole thing with walking with the music relaxed me and got me to stop overthinking so much. And I think part of the whole thing with stroke recovery, for me, at least in my experience, was, well, my therapist said to me on day one, Ralph, we're trying to learn how to forget how to walk, meaning not think about walking and have it become natural. And the few times that I've actually had natural walking occurred like when I wasn't thinking about it. I'm looking at my backyard because half a dozen of them occurred right out there. I'd be walking back from my office and I'd go, oh wow, you're walking perfectly. And then of course I would start thinking about it again and I would go into all of the bad habits. So the whole thing with the music, it also helped me with, I could hear the metronome in my head after the music stopped. I mean, I really got into the entrainment's the word you guys use, the patterning. So I think that had a real effect. So I just thought I'd share that with you while Eric was.
Well, Ralph, we are back in action now. But there's actually a neuroscience explanation for that, too. And it's great to hear your perspective of what that felt like. Because the two things that you said were that it felt more automatic and that it helps you relax. And what's the really interesting thing about that is from a neuroscience perspective, what we are trying to elicit with our digital therapeutics, with this intervention, is using music, specifically the rhythm in music, to activate your motor system at a subconscious level. So without going too deep into the neuroscience, that's what the research actually shows, is that when we have an external rhythmic cue, that it activates your auditory system, because it's an auditory cue, so you hear it, so your auditory system is activated. But your auditory system and your motor system are subconsciously connected, which means that your auditory system and your motor system begin to fire in synchrony with that external rhythmic cue, and that's what we call entrainment, as you mentioned. So the auditory system and the motor system are in training with each other and with that external cue. Because it's a subconscious connection, how that portrays itself in clinical work or in clinical intervention is that patients don't have to think about walking because the music is driving the automaticity back to the movement. So the rhythm is actually telling your motor system to fire, to move, such that you don't have to think about telling your body to do it. The music is telling your body to do it. So there actually is fundamentally a neurologic reason why you feel that way. And then also, we can remember that while we don't focus a lot about the music when we explain the neuroscience of it, focused on things like emotions and relaxation with music, because we're really focused on the neuroscience and improving movement. But we can't take away the fact that music is inherently an emotional stimuli, right? So we hope that by being able to use familiar music, that it will be engaging, it will be fun, but that there is also a level of relaxation that happens or comfort that happens in doing the intervention, because we're creating a situation that hopefully is enjoyable as well.
Interesting you talk about conscious, subconscious, because experienced it on two different levels, subconscious level and the conscious level. Being very interested in this subject and your product, I, of course, while I was walking, was thinking about what was going on a conscious level. But on a subconscious level, I found that my brain very much wanted to always hit the metronome, which would sync with the downbeat, with my affected foot. And I even consciously tried to do it, hit it with my other foot, with my strong leg. I didn't like it so much. Sometimes in order to get back in sync, I'd have to do that. But there was something subconscious going on where my brain just wanted to put my left affected leg down on the downbeat. And it's like, it was very automatic. And I'm here thinking about something that's happening subconsciously on a conscious level, and I was aware of it. So it was very interesting.
That's a very sort of meta thought, right, Ralph? There's something happening subconsciously, but you're aware that this is happening. And we actually get that feedback a lot from our patients who are using the product. When they do the intervention, they give this experience that the music is pulling them, or that it's driving them, or it's making their affected side move differently in a way that they haven't in a while. But that they're aware that this is happening, but they're also aware that they aren't really having control over it. And I think that the awareness comes because fundamentally you're aware that something different is happening than the way that you've been walking for however long it's been since your injury, particularly with our first product that we're focused on chronic stroke. I mean, we're seeing some of our patients that have had walking deficits for, 6 months, 6 years. Some of our patients are 10, 20 years post-stroke. So they're conditioned to walk in a certain way, that now that they're getting a new stimulus to their brain or a new stimulation, something's changing, right? And it's a subconscious cue, but we're very aware because we're moving differently. It's really a profound, I think, experience for some of these patients.
Well, and I'm 13 and a half years out now. It was a couple months ago, so I was still more than 13 years out, and I found it had an effect on me. Of course, I'm a big believer in neuroplasticity, and I'm always interested in things that maximize neuroplasticity, and it seemed to me from my experience that was what was going on with me when I used the product.